This is one of the most impressive interviews I've ever experienced in my life. Seriously.
Oh, well, thank you so much. It's great to be able to talk to you guys.
You know, I never thought I would be sitting here doing a profile piece on an interviewer, but some people just stand out and are pretty much the best in their field, and they deserve a video. Yes, folks, today we are talking about Nardwuar, the human serviette. If you're not familiar with Nardwuar, he does a lot of interviews with super famous musicians, and he just stands out because in each and every one of these interviews, he just knows so much information about who he's interviewing.
I'm glad I'm a good guy, because if I was under investigation for something, I'd be scared right now.
Because Nardwuar just kind of knows it all. He knows the name of your high school mascot. He probably has access to your incognito tab on your browser. Nardwuar doesn't really talk about himself, so it'll be kind of hard, but let's go over the history and some facts about Nardwuar.
Double shout out to my nephew from Vancouver, you know what I'm saying, the Canuck, Mr. Nard, stay hard, Ward.
When you take a glance at Nardwuar's YouTube channel, you can tell that he's been around for a while. Not a lot of other YouTubers can say they've been doing it since 2006, but he goes long before YouTube. He has interviews on his channel with Kurt Cobain and Slipknot, which is kind of crazy. And he puts the date of when he did these interviews in the title. So we have interviews from like the 90s and early 2000s here on YouTube. In 2015, he shared his first ever interview, and it was from 1985 when he was 17. This is an absolute relic, and you can even tell at the age of 17, he did not fold under pressure, and he really knew what he was gonna do, I feel like, just from watching this. He interviewed a band called Poison, which, quite frankly, I've never heard of, but let's show the clip.
That's 1985. We're in a process. I don't know if you can hear Poison in the background or not, but that's them. After a lengthy start, that means lengthy time in between sets, Poison finally got on. Now the question is, will this dance be a success? Obviously these people think so. But the question is, will it work on the economic part? And that is something that only time will tell. Onwards, I think we should move to see if this is 1985, September 26th. And I think we'll move on.
What I find interesting is the people behind the camera kind of laughing and sort of poking fun at him in a way. And it's cool to see that he kind of stayed true to himself and what he wanted to do.
Started on time. Should have done this. Then this little girl was doing coffee.
His love for entertainment kind of does make sense because his mother was a journalist and she did have a show on cable TV in the 70s. In the late 80s, Nardwuar got involved with a Vancouver college radio station, CITR, by pretty much begging for a show. They let him have 1 minute of airtime on Fridays. He jumped at the opportunity and took advantage. You see, with this show, sometimes the 1 minute would turn into several, to the point where the show did become popular. He continued to perfect his interviewing skills through the 90s, and this is when he started to try and implement more rappers in there, which is really one of his big claims to fame now, because rappers always put up this huge tough guy persona, and it's cool to see Nardwuar come in there and kind of throw him a little curveball, and it almost turns him into like a childlike type of reaction. There are the fair share of rappers who just kind of don't understand his stick if you're not familiar with him. I mean, I don't blame him, but sometimes I will watch these interviews and I'll base it on how they treat Nardwuar. And if they're like disrespectful to him, I'm automatically inclined to have a little less respect for the artist. Like when Kid Cudi walked out on Nardwuar, I was like, well, that's kind of disrespectful, Kid Cudi. Apparently, he left the interview because he was getting emotional because his father just died, and Nardwuar kept pushing on stuff from his family and childhood. So I don't really know why I'd use Kid Cudi for the example, because if this was true, then he is in the right for just walking out if he didn't feel comfortable with the interview. But what I'm trying to get at is a lot of fans and a lot of artists kind of have the thought in the back of their mind, where does he get all this information from? And Nardwuar kind of did a TED Talk about this, and it's a pretty simple answer. He just asks. Before interviews, Nardwuar contacts managers, maybe close friends and family, and just tries to get as much information as possible so he can have a great interview and surprise the artist with gifts and surprise them by mentioning things they thought not a lot of people knew about. When it comes to interviewing, Nardwuar's style is very different, and it's just unmatched because most of the time he's just giving answers and then seeing how the artist reacts once he tells them. Like, any interviewer can be like, oh, what did you think about when you were rapping in the studio for that song? Or you watch an NFL game or something and the reporter's like, what was going through your mind when you made that play? And obviously, those are good questions, but Nardwuar seems to have a very different approach, and it catches the artist off guard. It forces authenticity. It makes these figures that look like they're not even human have genuine moments. I speak for everyone here when I'd way rather see an interviewer with one of my favorite artists having a good time and surprising them, and you just kind of learn a lot of new weird things or cool things after watching these. You don't want that robotic interview. You want that interview where the artist is like, how did you know that? Are you even real? What is going on? And Nardwuar perfectly describes that, and I feel like you should be kind of the blueprint for any music interviewer or interviewer out there. Nardwuar's creativity and persistence is just amazing, and him just being very different is kind of what brought him to the top. He wears crazy outfits, has a cool hat, asks insane questions, and has weird catchphrases. And that's what makes him an absolute legend. Anyways, thanks for tuning in. Love you. Adios. Doo-doo-doo-doo.